Welcome to another episode of Everyday Strong with Dr. Michael G. Daniels. This is your host, CB Baker. We got a good one today. We had a follow-up question to one of the podcast episodes that we had. Was they wanted us to discuss in more detail inclusion in the workforce for culture. Can we bring our culture to the workplace, or do we have to leave it at the door and conform to the majority of the culture that's at the workplace? And we're not just talking white, black. It could be, if you're going to work at the hair store where the Koreans own it, are you going to act more Korean or hold your own culture back? So those are the type of things we want to talk about today and see if we can get some clarification or just have a really nice discussion about it. So welcome to the show, Dr. Daniels.
Well, thank you. And if you think about it, it's an interesting topic because, I guess if you think about America in general, right? Basically, we accept a very limited amount of cultural diversity, right, in the workplace. For example, you can be a Christian in the workplace, but it's a little more difficult to be a Muslim in the workplace.
Right.
Right. And even though we say things like, we don't want your religion to be a part of or take away from. People don't have a problem with if your religion is Christianity.
Right.
But if you are a Muslim or atheist, that can be problematic. But it should not be, obviously. You should be able to bring, whatever you are, whoever you are to the workplace and be judged not based on, those kind of differences. And likewise, the same thing with dress. If you think about it, rules are kind of being relaxed a little bit, but not wholeheartedly.
Right.
If you are a female Muslim, and you wear the garb, the habib, and all the coverings, that's not looked upon favorably.
Right.
If you were teaching elementary school, let's say,
right,
or what have you, and it's unfortunate. Dreadlocks are not acceptable in a lot of business environments.
Right.
If you have a more contemporary organization, maybe so, Google, places like that. But if you were at Wells Fargo, it's going to be a different ball game.
It's going to be a different ball game.
And it should not be. If you're Bank of America, it should not be. So I think it is a good thing personally, because if an employee can express who they are, it makes for a happier employee.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone should be forced to deny who they are when they come in the workplace, because that's a part of who you are, is what you bring to the organization.
Yeah. And as a business owner, I try to make sure everybody feels comfortable being themselves. But one thing I will say, when I first got into management, the first rules always came up was don't talk religion, don't talk politics. Mm-hmm. Then you should be okay. But now they're saying that now that we're coming back out of the pandemic, people starting to go back to work, spend a whole year watching the talking heads on TV, mm-hmm. people being opinionated. Now we started to see people on our Facebook page that we thought they was one way, and then we're finding out they're a whole nother way. Mm-hmm. But then when you see them in the street, everything's fine. And you say the words, well, if they're saying this on Facebook, but then they're being friends with me, are they two-faced? Mm-hmm. But that's just their opinion. But now that's bleeding over into work. So what is your suggestion that we should do for the people that's going back to work and we got to face this type of environment where people now got to get, reintroduced to not doing certain things? Or should we embrace each other and do certain things?
Well,
which one?
I think people have always been forced to not do certain things. My work career spans 40 years. Okay. And, in the corporate world. Mm. And there's always been a requirement that you fit a certain look. Okay. There's always been, if you work in a business environment, you dress in business attire.
Right.
They would have relaxed attire on Friday, when you still would come business casual. But generally speaking, if you're in an office environment, they expected you to dress a certain way. Now, we may not wear suit and ties today like we used to wear, but I tell you what, at a certain level, they still wear suit and ties.
Suit and ties, yeah.
In corporate America. If you're home, it was a little more relaxed. But I think people have never really, and you mentioned, you can't talk religion, but you could talk religion. You just couldn't talk anything other than Christianity.
Gotcha.
Right. Let's face it, people would say bless you all the time. It wasn't unusual for people to have Bible study clubs at lunchtime,
right,
and those kind of things. That wasn't unusual. I should say just religion, but the major religions, unless you were Muslim, that was the only one that was like, no, don't be bringing that gibberish on the job. But in a sense, if you want to create an environment of all, if you want to be what you say you are, right, which is all inclusive, the question then becomes, do you mean it? Okay. For example, if I'm really being all inclusive, right, should I be upset if the person in their office has a Confederate flag?
No.
Right. If I'm being all inclusive, then that I shouldn't be upset with that. Now, I realize that in some cases, you don't want to go to the extreme. For example, well, of course, I don't think this is extreme, but I can tell you that the EEOC thinks it is. Okay, if I were to put up a picture of of the cheerleading squad from the Dallas Cowboys in my office,
right,
and a female employee came in and said, that is offensive to me,
right,
I would have to take it down.
Right.
But the question is, why should I have to take it down?
Right.
See, I'm of the opinion that in 2021, we have gone too far.
Yeah.
We've kind of gone too far. If what I am displaying does not harm you and my actions don't harm you, I don't see why I have to conform to your ideal of how I should carry myself or how I should, present myself. If my actions are causing the customers to be upset, then of course I have to deal with that. I have to, because, you're in business to make money. But other than that, I don't think it is, I don't think it does the agency or the company, I don't think it improves their value to impose a false set of standards on employees.
Now, what if you're the person that you feel like you cannot be you and you're working there? You're working at this place. How do you suggest a person go about telling their boss or their supervisor their feelings, or do they just suck it up, either do it or find another job?
Well, I never felt like I could be me in the workplace. Okay, it's real, and I'm not alone in that endeavor. Okay, because I happen to be a minority. Okay, I didn't want to come to work every day in a suit and tie. I can tell you that.
Right.
That wasn't my ideal thing to do. I did it because it was a requirement to do. As a matter of fact, I recall being in meetings where I would push to management. Listen, why are we wearing suit and ties to work when we don't deal with the public?
Right.
We don't. All we dealt with was other federal agencies.
Right.
At this particular job I was working at the time. Well, the response I got back was, because we are part of corporate America and we have an image to keep up and blah, 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 blah. Okay. All employees, in my opinion, should feel comfortable expressing their desire to allow their culture to be a part of who they are. So if I want natural hair, for example, I should be able to speak to my employer about that and say, yes, this is what I would like. This is what I would like to do. Now, My comment to my staff was always simple. No one gets rid of an asset. Okay. So if my posing a question to my employer causes him to say, "You're fired," it's because he was looking for a reason to fire me anyway.
Yeah.
Because posing the question is not going to get you fired if you are an asset.
Right.
So I would say you just do it. Ask the question. But if the employer says no, I think that's the issue for today is, should employers have that obligation to take in consideration your culture? I mean, why should me as an African-American, say if I was African-American female, if my hair is not naturally straight, why should I have to straighten my hair to be on the job?
Right.
If I wake up in the morning and wash my hair, it's an afro. Why shouldn't I be able to come to work that way?
Right.
But unfortunately, in a lot of workplaces, that's not considered acceptable.
Right.
If I'm an African-American man, why should I have to go to the barbershop once a week? Why can't I just let my hair grow out and be natural?
Right.
That's not acceptable in all places. Just like in certain jobs, you can't have facial hair,
like the Yankees.
Right. Or in certain
in Disney too.
In certain police departments, certain law enforcement agencies, you can't have facial hair unless you're working,
undercover or
something like that. But why? I mean, how does that, when I was in school, they call it a bona fide occupational requirement. How does that become a bona fide occupational requirement?
Right.
What does facial hair have to do with my ability to give out a ticket?
Right.
Or my ability to, stop a fight? How does facial hair stop me from, smiling when you come into the amusement park?
Right.
What makes that occupational requirement? But yet organizations are allowed to use that.
Yeah, and I'm curious I guess somebody's probably written a business book on this to see the results of it. Like there was a benefit for doing something like that. Like say with Disney with the no facial hair and the Yankees when they had the no facial hair thing. Mm-hmm. It was so funny. I remember the guy that used to play. The guy played for Boston, the Red Sox, and they beat the Yankees and they won the World Series that year. But then he got traded the next year. And like a couple of years later, he was with the Yankees, and he was known for this big beard. He had a big goatee, and then he had to cut it off, and he looked completely different when he was playing with the Yankees. They said, "You coming over here on the Yankees? You got no facial hair."
Yeah. Listen, the Disney World I know about just so happened when I was in grad school, I did a project on Disney World. Okay. A marketing project. Disney's concept was this. Basically, Disney had a concept for all of his employees, and he would tell them, you always give a little extra, right? And he wanted uniformity from all his employees. And his concept was, and you could have a mustache, but you can't have a beard. His concept was simple, that it didn't allow anyone to be able to get into character. Because initially, being a character, anyone could be pulled to be a character.
Gotcha.
And if you got a beard, we can't do that. We can put a beard on you and put you in character.
Right.
But if you got a beard and you're supposed to not have a beard, we can't do that. And that became a part of, the standard then because of that. So as you grow, well, the standard just never changed, presumably. But the concept of giving a little extra is still a part of their mantra that every staff that's pushed. You never see a Disney employee can never be seen in Disney World out of character. Never. So you can't be an employee in Disney World and walk in the front gate and go somewhere.
Right.
You got to come in a separate entrance where no one can see you coming in, get in character, and then pop up.
Right.
Right. Because that's their mantra. But again, there was it's a marketing thing for them. But as huge as they are now, could they change? Who knows? But, as far as hitting a baseball with Steinbrenner,
right.
To me, and I don't know because I didn't do a paper on him, but I suspect it was just a matter of control.
Yeah.
Because you don't get less efficient in hitting a baseball because you have a beard.
Right.
It was just a matter of control, unfortunately. I think that sports is probably the one place where culture has been allowed to seep in. I mean, you rarely see a defensive back that doesn't have dreads.
Right.
It's like that's almost a requirement now.
Right.
You got to.
You can't even see the name on the back of their jersey anymore.
Right. You got to have dread to be a defensive back.
Right.
In fact, as you know, dreads have become a part of you. So I can even tackle you by grabbing your dreads.
That's right.
And same thing with tattoos became popular because of basketball.
Right.
Allen Iverson was that player that started tattoos, with being prominent in basketball, and now everybody wears tattoos.
Right.
Allen Iverson changed how people dressed because they allowed him to bring his, of course, he was a marquee player.
Right.
They allowed him to bring that to the table. Well, it didn't hurt basketball when he came in. It helped basketball when he did that. Michael Jordan changed the dress in basketball because used to be they was wearing them short shorts.
Yep.
Michael Jordan came in with the long shorts. It didn't hurt basketball. It helped basketball. Smart companies are finding out that if you bring culture into the workplace, it helps you. It doesn't hurt you. But companies are still, in my opinion, too locked in to that mindset that you got to adopt the culture of the primary managers in the organization,
right?
As opposed to bringing what you have to the table when you come to the organization.
So now I got a question for you. In the organization of Enoch Baptist Church, at what point did you make a decision, or what point was it we made a decision to be? I consider Enoch a very liberal church. When did you make a decision to embrace that? Like, when did that happen, or did it just happen over time?
No, it didn't happen over time. It happened overnight.
Okay.
And I can tell you how it happened. Under the person that mentored me as a pastor, he was very traditional, very strict. I wore a robe in the pulpit every Sunday to preach. Okay. I think I would say I was probably about 34 at this time, 34 years old. And my wife wanted me to go to an office party with her. And I felt uncomfortable going because I knew there was going to be drinking, and I knew that, I'm the pastor now, and I didn't want to bring a dark image on the church because the Bible says, don't let your good be evil spoken of, okay? So I went to this pastor because I felt kind of bad about not going with my wife. So I go, it's the time my original pastor has now passed. So I go to this other pastor and I asked him the question. I said, I feel bad. Do you have any suggestions for me? He said, yeah, I got a suggestion for you. Go to that party and have a good time. And he was an elder pastor, right? And his wife looked at me and said, shame on you. Shame on you. You're going to disappoint your wife just to make these old fogies happy? And I said, well, I mean, that's how I was brought up. He said, let me explain something to you, young man. You were a man before you were a pastor. God didn't call you to stop being a man. He didn't call you to stop being a husband to your wife. He says, listen, the Bible is not trying to put shackles on you. The Bible is trying to help you become free.
Right.
He says, so there's nothing wrong with you dancing just because you're saved. There's nothing wrong with you enjoying yourself just because you're saved. Now, that was music to my ears. That's all I need to hear was a seasoned pastor tell me that my feeling shackled was really not wasn't the devil trying to tell me something. That my feeling shackled was a genuine feeling that that was a real thing. That was it. I left his house, said, thank you, Lord, for opening up mine eyes. Went home and said to her, hey, yeah, we're going. And that was it.
Yeah.
And then I shed the robe. And I mean, not that I still don't like robes, but they're hot. They're
Right.
cumbersome.
Right.
You know, I'll be sweating up there, so I start wearing robes. Sometimes I wear a jacket. You know, if it's chilly, I'll put a jacket on. If it's not, I just wear my vest. You know, now I still got to maintain my image because I'm still cool like that. So, you know, I got to look cool when I go in the pulpit. I got to look good.
So I'm gonna ask you this question. I'm glad you went there with that. I was on YouTube, ran across Creflo Dollar. He had on a regular jacket, t-shirt, you know, and jeans. Ran across TD Jakes. He had on just a button-down shirt. I mean, you could tell it was TD Jakes. He's gonna be fly. You could tell it was you know, it was tailored and everything. And then, you know, I ran across I don't know him personally, the guy that's the pastor at the Mount.
Kim.
And he had on the button-down shirt. He even had on a little chain. Had a little chain on and everything. And I asked myself this question. I said, I ain't gonna say. I said, I wonder why Dr. Daniels hasn't showed up to church with just, you know, a button-down shirt, jeans, you know, nice pair, you know.
You know, on Sunday.
On Sunday, you know, like wonder why he hasn't done that. So I'm curious, and I know you also gonna get hit with this question, and now I'm trying to not edit it out.
No, don't edit it out.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I'm not a chain wearing guy. That you know, I have worn chains in the past.
Yeah.
See that to me, that's a 1970 deal. You know, you get a certain age, and to me, that don't look cool anymore. You know, it's like going to the club and you see, you know, the 60-year-old guy leaning against the wall with his shirt buttoned down,
right,
and with a toothpick in his mouth. Just play it out, okay? Now I'm not down in listen.
Right.
If that's their thing, that's their thing. I'm just saying that's how it is in my head.
Right.
Is that ain't
right.
me? That ain't me. Would I wear a button-down shirt? Oh yeah, but see, just being straightforward with you. When I look in the mirror, I like to look in the mirror and say, hey, you know what? You know, you're looking good today.
Right.
You're looking good today. And I think I look better with a vest and a towel than I look in a button-down shirt. So I want to put my best foot forward. You know, sometimes I like dressing down, but then sometimes I like dressing to the nine. You know, just like I'm sure, you know, everybody does at some point in time.
Right.
It's just different people like it at different times. You know, I've noticed this, for example. Now, my son will come to church as casual as he can be, but let him go out to a spot where he know there are going to be some people his age looking at him. He's cologne down,
right,
and ain't nothing out of place, right,
right,
because we dress to impress based on where we are,
right,
you know. And I'm saying, when I'm in church, I'm trying to impress, and that, you know, not in a negative sense, but because, you know, I want to feel good about me,
right,
and I wouldn't feel good about me in that environment. And I get it. Some people like to dress down. They like to wear, you know, the sneakers. You know, it's like I was watching TV the other day, and the guy was like, he was going to put a tux on. He said, "Boy, this tux will look good with some Air Jordans." You know,
yeah,
maybe it would,
right,
but you know, and I might try that one time too. You know, because that sounds pretty comfortable. But that's why I don't do it. You know, it's just because I like to dress a certain way, and that's it. Now, would I have a problem with someone else getting in the pulpit with a t-shirt on? No, it wouldn't bother me the least bit. You know, because as you know, listen, you know Enoch, folk.
Right.
There is no dress code.
No, it's not.
No. We got deacons that are coming to church in short pants on a polo shirt.
Yeah.
You know, members wear jeans all the time, you know, t-shirts and everything. The only thing I will say is this, is that the ladies, when they come to church, I shouldn't say never. Rarely do you see ladies come to church dressing provocatively.
Right.
You know, which I'm kind of surprised, but they don't, you know, because I know when they hit the club, they got them provocative clothes.
Yeah.
But I guess they change between the time they hit the club and come. I'm comfortable with people coming to church. We say come as you are. And you raise a good point. Would I feel bad if people brought their culture to the church? No.
All right.
If you are in the youth culture or the hip hop culture, and you come to church with, wearing the attire for that culture, doesn't bother me in the least bit. I want you to be comfortable. I don't think Jesus asked anybody to change clothes to come here and preach.
Right. Just come here.
Just come here and preach. Matter of fact, I don't think he changed clothes either. He wore sandals and, the attire of the day.
Right.
So I think it's a perfectly good question, but I also think that I'm very comfortable with it. So not just in the workplace, but in the church place too. I'm comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with the dreads. I wouldn't have a problem with the ministers had dreads on. Wouldn't bother me in the least bit. Facial hair, I got a little bit myself. Don't bother me in the least bit. Matter of fact, I'm sporting that beard because I think it makes me look distinguished. Now, I may not be any wiser, but I think it'll make me look like I'm a little wiser.
You look relaxed.
Hey, that's what that beard does for you, see. Yeah. And matter of fact, so you can stroke it like that, and people say he in deep thought.
and the whole time you got ingrown hair, you try to get it out. Well, that's our time. Our glass is empty. So, Dr. Daniels, anything else you'd like to bring before we close out?
I just want to say to all of our members and all those listening, listen, there's a drive on right now for everyone to get vaccinated. Get your COVID vaccine. If you're afraid of Johnson & Johnson, get the Pfizer shot, get the Moderna shot. I got the Moderna shot, had no problems, no side effects. Hey, listen, get it done so we can all live in a normal way. I know some of you are afraid. I know some of you are thinking it's the government trying to put chips in your arms. Hey, listen, if they wanted to put a chip in your arm, they wouldn't have used this. Your children have to be vaccinated. They go to school, they'd have put it in those vaccinations. You get flu shots, they'd have put it in that vaccination. So don't listen to all the conspiracy theorists. All right, let's be safe. Let's look out for one another. God bless you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Daniels. And thank you so much for listening. This is your host, C.B. Baker. Till next time.